Oh, hey everyone, welcome to Creator Toolbox, a show brought to you by us at the ServiceNow Developer Program. This show is where we demo all the new features for basically anybody that does anything for ServiceNow. In the top right corner of our screen is where we usually show the little Xanadu logo. There it is. To show that we're in our Xanadu release content. We're nearing the end of it actually, because we're in store release 2, showing off all the cool Xanadu content. But be sure to check out our content calendar at devlink.sn/Xanadu, and you'll see all the different things that we have planned for you, or had planned for you, and are about to be finished with: podcasts, blogs, videos, live streams, all that good stuff. But before we jump into our content, we do have introductions to be made. And so, as a reminder, my name is Earl Duque. I am a senior developer advocate here at ServiceNow. Been with the company for 3 years now, but then was excuse me, I was doing development with customers before that. And then I'll pass it off to Andrew.
Oh, thank you, Earl, and always a pleasure to come hang out with you. I'm Andrew Barnes. I'm a director of product management here at ServiceNow in our App Engine group, which is the area of our company that helps build products to make customers successful at custom applications. So I've been at ServiceNow for a little over 6 years. I've been in the ecosystem for 11. I'm excited to go to my 12th knowledge coming up next year. And before ServiceNow land, I was in higher education, teaching computer science and running enterprise application services. And my first job at ServiceNow was the same as Earl's. I was a developer advocate. So it's always exciting to hang out with you, Earl, and the other advocates and get to do these shows. And now I'll hand it off to Matthew.
Thanks, Andrew. Hi, my name is Matthew Ripley. I'm a product manager on the App Engine team at ServiceNow. Been working on ServiceNow Studio now for about a year and a half, and before that was working on other App Engine products like App Engine Studio, Table Builder, and Formula Builder. So glad to be joining you today.
I want a quick shout out. Lauren in the audience pointed out that my microphone, I was talking to you two this entire pre-show and none of you told me that I sounded like I was in a cave.
I'm so used to, I would have caught that previously, probably, Earl, but I'm so used to people's microphones sounding terrible nowadays on all my Zoom calls that it was just normal.
Okay, well, hopefully the microphone is fixed now. But thank you that's our introductions. And now that we're done with that, we can jump right into the content. So I'll get Andrew's screen onto everyone's monitor, and then we can show off some of what we're talking about today.
Awesome. Thank you, Earl. So what we'll do today is we're going to talk about ServiceNow Studio, which is our new product for developers. So it is a replacement for lots of other studios, and we'll get into that in a second. But I'll keep the slides at a minimum, and then we'll jump in to do a demo of seeing ServiceNow Studio. And then if we've got some time, I may tease out some future-looking things for you. So let's dive through it. So like I said, we might tease out some future looking things in a little bit. So safe harbor, please don't make any purchasing decisions based off of what we're going to show you today. But we'll try and be clear on what is available now and is finished and what is future looking. So today's developer experience for our ServiceNow developers is a little bit fragmented. And, we at ServiceNow noticed that. And so you have lots of tools that you have access to in our platform, and even lots of studios. And what we're looking to do is to unify that experience into ServiceNow Studio and bring it all together. So if we look at it in a slightly different way, here is just a few of the tools that you have access to today as a ServiceNow developer. Things like UI Builder, Workspace Builder, Service Portal, Creator Studio, lots of things you have access to as a ServiceNow developer, but they're all sort of fragmented and individual. And what we're doing with ServiceNow Studio is bringing it all together in an experience designed just for you, just for ServiceNow developers.
What an animation. That's great.
Oh, thank you. So this is what ServiceNow Studio looks like, which is, like I said, an experience designed just for developers. And that's a really key thing about how we're able to, do things just for developers, because the platform view that most developers are very familiar with is a shared experience. So there's more than one persona that they're trying to service in that view. And so the things that we can do just for developers there is a little bit more limited. Whereas now that we've built an app experience just for developers with ServiceNow Studio, we're able to make decisions that are just for developers and make broad ranging experience changes for that persona in particular. So I talked about a little bit about why we're doing this, which is to bring these experiences together to help you as a developer accelerate your development, and decrease that fragmentation and the where's this and which tool do I use for this, and do I even know what all the tools are. And so we're trying to bring all that together to you in ServiceNow Studio with this unified developer experience called ServiceNow Studio. You may have experience with some of our other previous studios. There's the old legacy Studio IDE, which is also sometimes referred to as ServiceNow Studio, and we now refer that as Legacy Studio. And there is App Engine Studio and Creator Studio and the new ServiceNow IDE. And ServiceNow Studio is trying to service that what we consider the regular ServiceNow developer persona. So most of our developers, most of the people who are going to watch this video, you're our target audience for ServiceNow Studio. And we'll even talk about it when we get to the future-looking things, about the Creator Studio, ServiceNow Studio, and ServiceNow IDE, and how those three fit together. So the first thing I always like to show people with ServiceNow Studio, and this is actually going to be near the end of the slides before we get into the instance, is that you can work across multiple scopes simultaneously. So I'll show you when I get into the instance, what the regular experience is right now when you're in platform. And then I'll show you what it looks like in ServiceNow Studio, which is getting rid of that banner that tells you you're in the wrong scope. So that's one of the key differentiators right off the bat that really grabs most developers' attention, is that they have access to all of their scopes in the instance and can edit all of them simultaneously without doing any further steps, which is an amazing productivity boost for developers, and has always frustrated me as a developer. So we have these integrated tabs inside ServiceNow Studio that surface almost all of our builders. And as we move into the future, all development builders will be inside ServiceNow Studio as integrated tabs to bring that seamless experience together for you as developers. Now, if you want to learn more about ServiceNow Studio, we've got a community hub, which I've got a link to here, that sn.works/SNS, and that capitalization matters on the SNS part there, that you can get to. I've also got the QR code there. And so you can post your questions and feedback into that community, and one of us will come and respond and engage with you there. And also, my team is also in the SNDev Slack, in the ServiceNow-Studio channel in that Slack. So you can come and reach us there. And with that, I'm going to move over my screen share to the instance and actually, show you the product live. So Matthew, while I'm getting that screen share up, tell them what's required to get ServiceNow Studio on their instance.
You just need the latest version of ServiceNow, and then you can install it directly from the store. So it's in our Xanadu Store 2 release, and it's for any user that has developer permissions. So if you're an admin or a delegate developer, you can use ServiceNow Studio.
Specifically, Xanadu Patch 3.
Xanadu Patch 3, yes.
Thank you. And that is the most current patch you can get from ServiceNow for Xanadu, is Xanadu Patch 3. Awesome. Thank you for that, Matthew. So right off the bat, I want to show you my favorite thing in ServiceNow, which is ServiceNow Studio, which is previously, you see I'm in a browser right now, and I've got 3 browser tabs. 2 of them are are business rules. So I've got these two business rules open. And if you catch here at the top, you get this message. The message you see all the time as a developer: I'm in the wrong scope. Okay, you're right. I'm in the wrong scope. So none of this is editable to me as a developer right now. So I can't edit this until I take an action. And if once I take that action, I still won't be able to edit this other one because it is in a different scope as well. So if I'm working on these two things at the same time, I'm constantly having to switch my scope back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And that is one of the key problems that we're solving. So we're going to get rid of those two tabs. We're just going to get rid of them and say, instead, I'm in ServiceNow Studio, and I've got those same business rules open here. So I've got this business rule open in the Employee Center, and you can see that I can edit this right here in ServiceNow Studio. And oh, look, we're now in the CMDB workspace. And I can edit this right here. So I can, put in a new comment, and save that. No, not back. Update.
When we
let's see if I'm actually logged in. Yeah, I am logged in. So I can save that right here and work across these multiple scopes. So that is my first and favorite thing in ServiceNow Studio. So I'll go ahead and close out those tabs. And Earl, you had a question.
No, I was going to comment that that thing alone, when we talked about it at our meetups around the world for developer meetups, received rounds of applause from the audiences every time we mentioned it.
It sure does. Like you said, when we showed this around the world at the CreatorCon events, the what was the other one's called? The World Forums, and Knowledge 24. That got lots of people excited. Same way I'm excited. It's the greatest feature for me as a ServiceNow developer is I don't have to worry about that scope picker anymore when I'm editing apps. So let's talk about the interface we have now. So I've closed out those integrated tabs, and what you're looking at is, in an example ServiceNow instance. This is a Xanadu Patch 3 instance with ServiceNow Studio installed, which again is a free app. And then coming in Yokohama, this is a future-looking thing. This will be installed by default on all your instances, so you won't even have to take any action to get this. If you don't, if for example you're not doing Xanadu at all, you're going straight to Yokohama. This will be installed and ready for you right after your upgrade. So let's talk about the interface a little bit here. So you can see that I'm on the home page. I've got a navigator on the left. I've got some tools at the top. I've got a create button. I've got a search area. I've got my recent files right here. So this is designed for developers from developer feedback. We, in fact, expect it to change and evolve. But let's talk about some of the details of the interface. So the first one is, I love this search right here in the middle. Key thing from one of my friends that said, search right in the middle. Please put it right in the middle. I want search right in the middle. So you can perform a search from this interface for a regular search. So this would be like a file name search. So if you're looking for a particular business rule or something, you can search for that here. And if you're trying to do a code search, which is one of the most used features in that legacy studio is the code searcher, which a good friend of mine wrote, is you have access to it right here, right here in this primary interface. You can get to it. So you can do, let's do glide, record, secure, and get that started. Oh, that's not types.
Yeah,
you got to put it in the search area. Sneaky. Glide, record, secure. And then we'll go ahead and let that start searching because that'll actually find a lot of things. So that's our search. You can open recent files. So those business rules that I just opened are right here. You can bookmark those files. So I can add a bookmark to these too, because maybe I'm going to be working on them for the next couple of weeks, and I know I need to get back to them quickly. And with that, let's take a look at this file navigator on the left and start going through it. So the first thing I did was the search. The next thing is we can do create, which I'm going to come back to in a moment. And then after that, we've got apps. So that's the screen I'm on right now, and it's got a filter on it. So we're currently filtered to custom apps, but I can also switch that to store apps or all apps. And so this will show me, based off of my user permissions, all of the apps on the instance that I have rights to edit. I'm in as an administrator right now, so it's showing me basically all of the apps. But if I was in as a delegated developer, it would show me all of the apps that were relevant and that I had permission to as a delegated developer. And then when I select one of these apps, it will open that up, and then I can edit it. So you can edit these out-of-the-box apps, so you won't get that message that you might have had in the Legacy Studio, which said, oh, you can't actually edit this here. So you're able to edit any of the ServiceNow apps from the store or from the family or your own custom ones right here in the same interface. So let's open up one of these apps. I actually want to open up one of mine. So I'll hit custom and then open up this Mothership Lab. And so this is going to load in this Navigator all of the application files from that app. They're going to be grouped by types. So this is probably a similar experience if you've have seen the Legacy Studio interface. Is we group them by type. So you can take a look at access roles. You can do the application menu and edit that, open it up. You can scroll down here to the table and open up the table. And so things like table builder will be leveraged if it's installed. I don't actually have that on this instance, but it would leverage table builder and open that up if I had that installed here. So this is responsive to what you have in your instance and what you have access to as an individual developer. So I can open up a role. Let's see, what else do I want to open up?
Does the portal pages open up? What does?
Yeah, so the portal pages, it depends on the page. So this is a UI builder portal versus a service portal. And this particular one will actually open up not in an integrated tab. So some of our UI builder experiences are able to launch an integrated tab for UI builder. This one is not one of those. So if I click this, it will actually launch that into a non-integrated tab. That's something that we're continuing to work on to bring all of the metadata types and all of the builders to be fully supported inside ServiceNow Studio directly. But we still have them here, and you can still launch them. That just won't be an integrated tab.
What about form? Does that load it into the form builder?
Yeah, so it will load. It depends on what you have installed. If you have table builder installed in form builder, it will load that. And otherwise, which I don't, it will load the UI16 view.
Okay, cool.
Andrew, one of my favorite features of that file navigator is the groupings that we added, the categories. So for your Mothership Lab app, you go to the hamburger menu in the top right and you show the parent categories. That's my favorite way to navigate through application files. Sometimes so sometimes I forget, but how are these all related? And that gives me a nice, easy way to see, okay, this is the category, these metadata files.
Yeah, that's great for discoverability too. If you're trying to explore an application, it helps you understand how it's built.
Yeah, this is a great view. I do love this grouping view, especially the other bucket, because one of the things that you'll notice is we expose all of your metadata, even if it's not something that you may typically need to interact with, but it's all here so that you can access it. But the ones that you won't typically interact with directly are going to be put under other, if that makes sense. So even
in the case, Studios, those wouldn't even be shown. These are the things that right. Perfect. Yeah. Because
they would be abstracted away and wouldn't even show it. So as an example, a flow, if I open up this flow, you'll see that I am only exposing flows here, but flows are actually made up of more than one metadata object. And the rest of the metadata objects that you wouldn't and almost shouldn't interact with outside of Flow Designer will be exposed in the other section by its type.
Nice.
So all of the metadata is there, even if, so we're leaving it up to the user, but this grouping sort of shows you if it's in other, maybe you shouldn't be editing it at. So, going and looking at it, sure, is fine, but it's riskier if you're editing something that's folded under that other tab, because it's most likely that that's an object that you're not normally supposed to edit directly. Awesome. So that is the app view. And again, just as a reminder, you can show custom apps, store apps, family apps, any apps that you have on your instance will all be available in that same interface. Now, you might say, hey, well, maybe I don't know what app the thing is in, right? Or it's global, and I don't know. So the next thing in our interface is file categories, which you'll see is a very similar structure. In fact, it's the same structure as we saw the metadata types inside of an app, but this is all of the metadata on your instance in this sort of simplified navigation window, which will expose the lists for those things. So if we want to drill into server development, and you can use the search filter here to say like business rules, and I can drill into the business rule. And then this is a paginated list for the business rule table. And if you need to access, more of the search capabilities. So if you want, conditional, only active ones, or for particular apps, you could just open up that list view of this, the full regular list view, and then have access to the regular filtering that you might need versus this short filtering, which will just leverage the name. So I can do, add user here, and I'll narrow down to those business rules with add user in the name. But if, I'm not exactly sure, the name of it, but I have some other information like, script contains, I can either use that code search, or I can go to the business rule list view and interact with the condition builder here. So that is the file navigator with the file categories. So you can collapse these, you can unclapse them, you can sort A to Z, Z to A, and you can open the list. So if we want to portal, for example, might be a different search that you have. So we've got portals, which would be those UI builder based portals, and then service portal, which would be the service portal based service portals.
Okay.
And then you can see, as an example, some of those portal records, again, are things that you don't typically go interact with, but we're exposing them here anyway for you. So you can get to all of those metadata that are represented from your instance here. So we're not trying to make you have to leave this interface if you need to interact with ServiceNow metadata. So that's our main goal here is if you're interacting with ServiceNow metadata, you should be able to do that inside ServiceNow Studio. So the next thing in the interface is bookmarks. Right now, I just have 2 bookmarks because I just did them live on the show. So I added these 2 bookmarks, fairly simple. It's similar to the favorites, and similar to the platform Navigator. We have recents, which is one of my favorite features of that they just accelerating my time as a developer is my resets. So that homepage has got, the most recent 5 things. But usually I'm working on so many things that is not as useful as this list, which I can, filter by which day I was on and launch these records straight from here. So I can, launch an app, I can launch individual metadata right from this interface. And, it is searchable and filterable, which is super powerful for me as a developer. So with that, I'm going to return back to the home page. We'll quickly touch on the tools and deployment, which is tools is the area for you to launch documentation and get to the community for most of these tools. Some of them, I need to update their apps to get the links here showing in this instance. But this will allow you to launch the product documentation or the community if that product has got a community right here. And then deployment is showing me all of my update sets and applications from the instance if I need to interact with either of those tables from this interface. I didn't actually touch on update sets and where you find them and interact with them as you're working on your app. So let's do that now. So you'll see way down here at the bottom, and this pattern comes from trying to align to more of the broader developer ecosystem. So when you use things like VS Code, you'll see that this kind of thing is located in the bottom and bottom left, as opposed to the top right, like we've traditionally had with update sets. So you'll see that I've got the scope here without a scope picker, because again, I don't have to pick the scope. The metadata object I'm on knows what scopes it's in, and I'm able to edit that directly. So you don't have a scope picker. You just have what the scope is for that object. And then the update set that is selected for this object. So I can switch update sets, or I can create new ones and then switch into that. So for the show, we'll create a new update set, and then we'll apply that. So now for the scope mothership lab, I'm in update set for the show. If I go to another tab in the same scope, you'll see that that update set is reflected there. And one of the magical things about this is even if I change that in another session, not only will it be reflected here, you'll actually see it, that the scope changes here. So you'll no longer have that scope picker be out of sync for what reality is. So what you see is what's actually being saved, which, I can't tell you the number of times that I've been working and looked at my scope and gone, the update set and gone, yeah, that's the right one. And then later realized, nope, that wasn't the one that my session actually had. And so I was storing stuff into the wrong update set. And if I go to, a file from a different scope, so if I open one of these guys, you'll see that I'll have a different update set choice there because I'm in a different scope. So those update set choices are reflected per scope. And I can have, as many choices of that as I have different scopes that I'm interacting with. Any questions or thoughts about the update set picking, Earl or Matthew?
Yeah. Not in the chat right now, but I know we received this question throughout when we were showing this off at different meetups and stuff like that. Is there any plans to make it automatically batch update sets together depending on the work you're performing? Because it's great. I think it's leaps and bounds greater when you get to switch between scopes rapidly and without it bugging you each time. But for people, or even out of box apps that span multiple scopes, when they were working on, do they need to make an update set for each one to make sure, or is there a way for it to track work on a single story or task or something and have it batched together?
So, I'm super familiar with that problem in space. And right now in our Xanadu version, you'll interact with the update sets and creation the same way you have previously. But we are working on a solution for that problem that we hope to deliver to you next year.
Okay,
so
cool.
That is a future-looking statement. But yeah, that is something that I'm personally excited about, solving that problem for developers. So we're hoping to get that out to you next year.
It's one of the things I appreciate that your team, everybody working on this, because you all know the ServiceNow developer struggle, and those things are being addressed. So every time someone asked a question, they were like, if it's not answerable now, I bet it will be answerable in the future.
So that's our home screen, the tools and deployment. And so the last main interface item that I want to hit is this stuff on the right-hand side. So the create process. So we can create an app or a file right here. So that we also have that selection on the left. So let's go ahead and try and create a file. So I might want to, for my mothership lab, so I select the scope here. So what you'll see is in order to achieve you don't have to have a scope picker, we've moved the scope picker selection to create time, which you'll be familiar with if you've been leveraging Flow Designer anytime in the past 3 or 4 years, is the scope picker, they already adopted this pattern. And what we've done is we've applied it for everything now. So you can select your scope, then select the metadata type, and then continue on with that creation process from that step. So we can select flow or business rule or anything else from our metadata types. So I'll create a business rule, and then I'll probably create a flow or a playbook. And so you'll see the create experience, other than that first step, is still familiar to you. It's the same interface. But what we've done is move that scope picker to that create time so that we are able to handle that. You don't need a scope picker when you're interacting with these records. So if we want to go and create a different file, like a flow, we can do so. And so for these builders that we have integrated, you'll see that we launch into their wizard as well if they have one, and fill in any of the data that we are passing, like the scope. So I selected that scope here. I'm not going to make you pick it again here. We'll go ahead and pass that in, and then we can generate our flow if we're using Now Assist. So features like Now Assist, if you've got them installed and you're entitled to them, you can leverage Now Assist, which is great. And so that leads me to the last thing that I want to show you, which is the Now Assist panel interaction here. If you're entitled to Now Assist and you've got it installed and you've got the role, then this will be available to you right here in ServiceNow Studio with the little sparkle icon in the top right. Wherever you're at in ServiceNow Studio, you'll have access to that Now Assist panel and be able to interact with it. The 2 skills that you'll have access to in Xanadu Store 3, which we're continuing to expand, are the ability to create an app or update an app. So if we wanted to select create an app, we would do so here. And then that would take us through that Now Assist process of creating the app. And then when we're complete, we'd be able to interact with that app just as any other app right here in ServiceNow Studio. So that's it for me for showing off the interface, unless there's an area that y'all want to look at a little bit more.
Can you hit that first tab? You did the code search results, but we never got to see the resulting page.
I didn't. I'm so sorry. You're right. I kicked it off. I launched it, and then I said, it'll take a moment because I did a big search. Absolutely. So here is our search results for the code search. So we're doing that Glide Record Secure. If you remember back 30 minutes ago, we did a search for Glide Record Secure. And these are grouped by type, and we can see that preview of where the search results were. And then we can open that file. So if we want to open that script include, we can launch that script include the same into an integrated tab, just as any other interaction with that script include would be inside ServiceNow Studio.
Nice.
Andrew, another feature that I really like is the tab grouping that we added. And as you work across multiple scopes, right, you've got all these different apps open. We've color coded them to indicate which scope they're from, which is fantastic. And as you click through those tabs, the update set and the scope changes automatically. But one feature that I always use is when I go into my profile icon in the top right, there's an option to group by scope, and it'll push the tabs that are in the same scope next to each other. And so that's a feature that I really love.
And so what you're seeing right now is I opened up, these are colored the same because they're in the same scope, but I don't have that feature enabled for grouping, which we can do by saying group tabs by scope. So that's a great feature. Thanks for calling that out to me, Matthew, that now you'll see all of the orange ones from that mothership scope. And we've got a little indicator here that shows you okay, this is the start, and then the next color is the start of another one. And if I open any other of these, they will continue to be grouped together. And if I open something else from the CMDB workspace, that would get purple, and it would be grouped together with the one that's already open. Great fun little feature there.
So clean.
All right. So would we like to talk about a couple of future looking things?
Of course.
Absolutely.
All right.
Love it.
So with that, let me stop the screen share and then start the screen share again. Back to our presentation.
I'm so excited for ServiceNow Studio. Just like, so the legacy studio, which so many of us lived in for so long, you have your app view and all the metadata for your app, but just like the fact that you included browsing metadata, because even in legacy studio, anytime you wanted to look up a script include that's not part of your app, you would have to go back to the platform view and go to this, type in script includes into the Navigator and find the file there. But with that, and then favorites, and then recent files, and code search, that means I can basically live inside ServiceNow Studio and never leave, basically. And that's
thank you for that, Earl. And it is so exciting. I'm so excited. Ooh, that reminds me. So while I did say that what we're trying to deliver is keep you in ServiceNow Studio when you're interacting with ServiceNow metadata, one thing that we've added that I didn't highlight is the ability to open data files and lists as well. So in that search bar, you can actually leverage that the same way you do the application navigator from a launching and interacting with other tables. So you can do incident.list or incident.do right there from that search bar, and that would launch the incident table list view or the incident table form or the other supported launcher points for each of the tables. So while we won't present you a direct interface to interact with incidents, for example, because you shouldn't be, in general, working in ServiceNow Studio to interact with incidents, but when you're modifying a business rule for incidents, you still need to test that as you're doing development. And so you can launch that and interact with that while staying inside Studio. So while that's not our primary target, it's a bonus that you're getting to be able to do that, and is an exciting feature. So now I will share my screen and the PowerPoints and sort of talk about a few things for our future as we wrap up here, and answer any questions if you have in the chat. So we've got a progression of studios. Workflow Studio came out early this year and was the first to actually leverage our app shell. So Workflow Studio is leveraging the same technology that my group is building for crafting these studios. And then our partner team created Creator Studio and was released right at that knowledge timeframe in May, which is targeted at those citizen developers doing that request fulfill right now is their primary scenario for creating apps in Creator Studio right now. And then our partner team and platform created ServiceNow IDE, which I've mentioned a couple of times, and is really targeted at that, full stack type developer who only wants to interact with code and only code. And that came out, in Q3 in August. And now with ServiceNow Studio, we've just launched for that primary regular ServiceNow developer persona. So we've got those 3 different studios. And we said, how can we make this experience better if for some reason someone wants to do more than one of these? And so what that looks like is when you're inside of ServiceNow Studio, Creator Studio, or ServiceNow IDE, you can actually toggle to one of the other experiences. So we're treating these as different experiences. And so based off of the user and the role that they have and the access that they have, they will have, either just the one that they're supposed to be in, or they'll have access to more than one, and they'll easily be able to toggle between the experience for what they're trying to do and trying to accomplish at that time. So this is really exciting to try and, again, bring everything all together. Even if we have a different experience, we're still trying to keep it in the same interface and be seamless for those developers to move between those experiences if and when they need to or want to. Any thoughts about that, Matthew or Earl?
I think this is going to make it really easy for developers to pick the experience they want and use the tools that make it fastest to do the job they're trying to accomplish. So if you really want to just quickly bootstrap a request to fill out, Creator Studio makes it very, very easy to do that. And being able to toggle back and forth quickly between these experiences is going to be a big, big benefit for all of our developers.
I support anything that will allow me to never leave ServiceNow Studio.
Me too, Earl. Me too. So again, this is a reminder. These are future-looking things that we're releasing later into next year. So no purchasing decisions based off these. So we're powering right now that search experience inside ServiceNow Studio with the platform search Zing, but next year we'll be powering that with AI search. Which is going to be exciting and open up more ways to filter and interact with your search results and get those finer grained search results that AI search can provide over top of the Zing. Focusing the file navigator. So being able to, get to the app scope that I'm in. So when I'm interacting with, a business rule in a scope, I can get the file navigator to navigate to that part and keep that interaction between the files and the navigator together if I so want. Being able to bookmark lists. So right now you can bookmark individual metadata objects, but you can also in the future be able to bookmark lists. So if you have your favorite metadata types that you want to bookmark, you can do that. And then open with. So this is, a little bit controversial for me because I want there to only be one way to interact with any metadata object, but sometimes you need to interact with things in more than one way. And that's what we're going to expose. So when you click on a metadata object, we'll launch the preferred method to interact with that metadata object. But sometimes different builders and different UIs have interactions and capabilities such that it might make sense to open it in the other way. And so that's what we're going to expose with the open with.
Do you have an example of a common one?
Yeah, a good example would be if you like to leverage Table Builder. So if you have Table Builder installed and you try and interact with a form or section or table, that will launch in Table Builder by default. But if there's something that you just really want to use one of the older ways to interact with tables, either UI 16 or Table Designer or Form Designer, or I'm trying to get the names right of the different ways you can interact with the tables. Those would be available to you to launch those interaction points. So again, so that you don't have to leave ServiceNow Studio. So the default would be it'd launch Table Builder. But if you need to get to that UI 16 view for some reason, you can. And then I think the last one that we're going to show is consistent scope management. So when I gave you that example of you're logged in a different session or some other thing caused your scope or update set to change that you didn't directly do in your interface, we want to highlight that to the user to help reduce the times that you're storing something in an update set that you didn't expect. So while right now it will change it for you and that will be reflected down there, we thought that wouldn't necessarily be a big enough signal that something had changed to a developer, and getting the right work into the right update set is such an important thing that we're going to highlight that even more. And with that, I'm going to end on the if you want to learn more screen again that we had before, which is come check us out on the community, come to the ServiceNow Slack, sndevs.com, and to our Slack channel, ServiceNow-Studio. and provide us feedback and interact with our team and let us know what you want and what you loved from ServiceNow Studio. So it should be available in many PDIs right now for you to install. So if you've got a Xanadu Patch 3 PDI, which there are quite a few of them already on that, you can install it yourself. Sometime later this month, that will automatically be installed in any Xanadu Patch 3 and higher instances. And then once you get to Yokohama or you're a customer instance and you get Xanadu Patch 3 or higher, you can install ServiceNow Studio and get started today, which, again, it's a free app. It's built for you, the ServiceNow developer. And I'm just so excited to show it to you today and love to hear your feedback.
Yeah, built for you and built from a lot of your feedback. So please keep that coming. Everything you see in this first release, was something we heard from customers that would make their lives better. Thing Andrew just showed on the roadmap, same thing as well. So looking forward to continuing to hear your experience in ServiceNow Studio and how we can make it better.
The chat there's no questions. It's all just pure excitement. Paige is excited about this. Alan Ovations said absolutely. Jason loves the update set approach. Claire loves that the option to record or open a record from the code search results is awesome. A bunch of people love it. Love the new features. This is amazing. That's nice. This is a great improvement. I love this. That's all. Entire chat is basically saying those stuff.
I love it. We know as you get into it and you start interacting with it, you'll have more feedback. But for me, this is, to me, my favorite ServiceNow developer tool launch ever. I think it is usable on day one. And ready for you to access and interact and build more things faster as a ServiceNow developer as a result of using ServiceNow Studio. So I couldn't be more excited about this launch. And, I'm not always the most excited about new tools if they don't meet my standard of I think it's ready. So ServiceNow Studio is ready for you to use.
Awesome. Anything else you want to announce or talk about before we?
I don't think so. The last thing I'll say is, again, reach out to us. You can hit us up on LinkedIn, the SNDev Slack, or the community that we had the link for on the chat. And don't be a stranger. Let us know your feedback. Tell us how we can build this tool better for you.
Awesome. Andrew, Matthew, thank you so much, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Cool.
Bye.